Oh, hey.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm not sure with this stuff. I think I got this right. It's broadcasting, but it's private. It's just only you're the only one that can see it.
Cool. Well,
I think. Yeah, I think I did it right. Anyway, hey, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I don't know. I'm getting old. Uh, um.
I'm working that direction.
Yeah. I can tell.
Oddly enough, I let my hair grow out a little bit. I'm getting ready to go get it shaved again, but there's not too much gray up here. It's all sitting right there.
Yeah.
But it won't take much longer before it's gray everywhere.
Yeah. Now that I've got you here, I don't know what to do with you.
I'm yours for at least the next half hour. So it's entirely up to you. You can make fun of me. You can you could just do whatever you want. Uh-oh.
It locked up for a moment.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, Google Plus has been having some issues for a while. One thing though, the charity that you did, being on there for an hour, I really appreciate that you doing that because that's such a great thing. Really.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the donations as does everybody involved with it. It was I do those things almost whenever I'm asked if I'm home.
Yeah.
And it happened to be one of the weekends that I was home amidst a ton of other travel. So it was kind of
no kidding. I mean, hell, you only went to what? Europe for a while, and then you went up to Canada.
Well, Aaron did more than I did. When I went to England, originally I was going to try and do like England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, but after the Australia trip, I was just wiped. And so I went to Manchester and then turned around and came right back home.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Y'all being able to do that now.
Yeah, it was really nice. I was surprised that we get requests like that, especially when we first did the Unholy Trinity. People are like, oh, come to our town. And this guy sends us a message and he's like, hey, would you come do Unholy Trinity in Australia? And I'm like, sure. And I figured that was the last I'd ever hear of it because normally, atheist organizations don't tend to have a lot of money. It's often difficult to get people to donate, especially people who've come out of church backgrounds who are like, no, I'm tired of you passing the hat. And so I figured we'd never hear anything else because that's an expensive trip. That was, they flew the three of us, plus Aaron's wife, and I think Seth paid to fly his family. But we all get down there. We could fly to Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane and Perth and Auckland, New Zealand, and did a handful of events. And I was just trying to figure out, how can you guys even afford this? I mean, I know, you charge tickets for the events and you try to break even, but
right.
Evidently they actually made some money on the whole deal. So what the hell do I know? I guess I don't know anything.
The Patreon stuff, is that helping you a lot?
That's how I make my living now.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's helping you a lot then. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's the only income I have. So yeah, it's, and I'm really overwhelmed. Last February, I was told about it by a couple friends who were using it, and they said, oh, you should just do this because I lost my job
right.
a month before. And I thought, yeah, well, maybe, but I didn't want to, I don't know. I got busy with other stuff. I wasn't really, it just seemed like you're not going to make any money doing that. Why bother?
Yeah.
And by the time July rolled around, it was very clear that I was not having luck in the job market, despite this being one of the best places for me to get a job as a software QA guy. And Aaron and his wife came down to spend their honeymoon with us. And they said, oh, we're getting ready to start our Patreon. You should do it. And I said, okay. And so I sat down and in like an hour, I finished setting up the page and figured out what I wanted to do. And I kicked it live. And the only plan was to try to see if it would make enough money to make up the difference between what Beth earns and what we spend. And and if it did that, then that'd be good enough. Cause I don't have the, too much of the ego of you have to be the breadwinner and make all the money and you do all the things. I was just, if we make enough to get by, it'll allow me to travel some more. I'll get to work on books. Because right now, or previous to this, every convention, every debate was me spending my vacation days to go do stuff primarily for free. I got paid for some of the gigs, but primarily it was for free. And within a month, it was very clear that I was easily going to make enough off of it to cover the difference. And about a month after that, it was making almost what Beth makes. And then a month after that, it was, well, it never gets up to where I was making as much as I was doing software.
Gotcha.
But it's close enough to where, yep, this is my job, and I'll do it for as long as people want me to do it.
Oh yeah. Well, I kind of came from the same background you did. I was in a Southern Baptist church, and just throwing myself into it, the whole 9 yards, everything. Rationalizing my ass off on a lot of stuff too, though. But it got to where all the effort I was putting in, praying, fasting, I was at church 4 nights a week, and it was like a one-sided conversation. It's like I'm doing all this stuff, but nothing's coming back from the other side. There's like little promises, like there's the answer prayer stuff, but there's things like peace and just all kind of little promises and things that will change your life and draw you closer to God or whatever. It says like draw near to Him, He'll draw near to you. Knock, seek, ask, all that stuff. I was kicking the damn door and I wasn't knocking. And after about 4 or 5 years, I'm saying, no, this is still a one-sided conversation. No matter how much I wanted it to be real, it wasn't happening. And I just slowly started drifting away. I even went to a Seventh-day Adventist church for a while, a Word church with the the tongues and all that. But nothing made a difference. And finally, I just drifted for like 30 years or so. And in the past couple of years, I started watching science and evolution videos on YouTube, and that kind of led me to Richard Dawkins. And then from there, it was on, Then I ran across you and Tracy and all the others on the Atheist Experience. And I'm like, wow, it really helped clear a lot of things up and kind of show me, where I was at, or, kind of explain, kind of help me explain more about what I was going through or had been through. So I appreciate all the work you and the rest of them have done on that show, because y'all really helped me a lot when I first started.
Oh, that means a lot. I've said before, if I only had ever helped a single person, it would have made, the last 10 years worth it. But as it turns out, we hear stuff like this all the time. Our inbox is full. We see the Pew results, the Pew poll results showing that people are departing religions, and every convention or debate, there are people who come up who are like, oh, what you guys have done on the show or this debate, it's been helpful, and I'll keep doing it as long as I get happening. So
well, see, I left. This was back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I'm like, where were y'all back then? I needed you.
I was at the First Baptist Church of Harvester.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, First Baptist Church of Harvester in St. Charles, Missouri, around right then.
Yeah.
And I was in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, some weekends doing mission stuff. I remember we took a trip to East St. Louis, or just outside of East St. Louis, to help rebuild a church. And it was this tiny, tiny little church. And we ended up kind of sleeping in sleeping bags in the church while we were doing construction that weekend.
Oh, okay.
So there was this thing where, Cy Ten Bruggencate put together, the Crown Rights Media put together a documentary about the debate that we did. And instead of showing, the whole debate, I haven't seen it, but the impression is that it's edited bits along with, why Cy is doing this. And they called the thing Debating Dillahunty. And they used a YouTube clip that I made where I basically said, Cy, you're not on my level. And I stand by that. He's not. I don't know. There are plenty of people who are on levels higher than me, but when it comes to this, Cy's not. And that was so. But if he was going to pretend that, so they went ahead and used that as part of this documentary video. I have a certain number of people who pay attention. I'm at a certain tier in this discussion,
right?
And Dawkins draws way more than I do, and so there are the rock stars in the movement, and then there's the middle tier, And then there are hundreds of unknown atheists out there that are doing, YouTube channels, and some of them are doing amazing things. And just
I love to watch. I like to be in hangouts with them and talk and stuff, because they're way above stuff that I know. I kind of get by, but it's so awesome when you meet.
I mean, my former roommate was an atheist long before I was. He doesn't have any interest in having the conversations with people. He's got better things to do with his life. It does, he's supportive of what I do. He's getting a little bit more involved, but he's never going to be an atheist activist, and he's probably not going to get into too many arguments with people. Oh, you believe? I don't. Cool. Can we go do something else now? Because he's kind of done with it, and I understand that. I can't do that. It's not me, and it's not where my strengths lie, but I certainly understand it, and I don't fault him. Some people call him and others apatheists, but I don't think that's true. It's not that he doesn't care about it. He's come to, he has his concerns and the life that he wants to live, and, God bless him.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like, outspoken people like you. Well, I look at you and Aaron. I love Aaron's work on his evolution and everything like that. I eat that stuff up.
Yeah, you had emailed that you may want to talk about creation, evolution stuff. I'll tell you, Aaron's the guy you should probably talk to there.
Yeah. I was just throwing out something because I'm like, what do I want to talk about? So, but when I look at him and I look at you, it's like,
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, when I look at like you and Aaron, you're like out there on the front lines, fighting the big battles, and a lot of us are kind of.
Oh, it paused.
To it, maybe have a few words to say here and there. Like on YouTube, we'll look at it and go, well, is it really making any difference? And it may not be.
Oh, it is.
But for people that, I'm sorry, what did you say?
It is.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've done the TV show for 10 years. I literally have thousands upon thousands of emails from people who have changed their mind specifically because of what we've done. And we're only one tiny portion of what's being done.
Yeah.
So it's making a difference, even if it's only encouraging people who, we may not be getting the fundamentalist every time.
Right.
But we may be getting the people who were, wow, I don't know. And, now they're identifying, and they're clearly identifying as non-religious.
Yeah, it's like, there's no chance in hell, you're going to change some of these people's minds on YouTube. But the people that are watching, they might go, hey, wait a minute, let me rethink something here.
That's exactly it. My parents are never going to change their mind. I'm absolutely convinced that I know them too well. But there are people who are similar to them who may. And I made the argument. I think it was the first time I did this was in Orange County. I basically did an entire speech about why we should be going after essentially rednecks. Coming from a pretty rednecky background myself, and
I live in North Carolina myself.
See, there you go. You're where in North Carolina?
Charlotte.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Asheville is my wife's favorite town in the world.
Okay. Love my grits.
we go to Asheville quite every year or two because she went to school at ETSU, so it was just a hop, skip, and a jump from there.
Yeah.
But I made this argument that we should be going after essentially rednecks, and part of it was because of my background. My wife is a huge advocate to encourage people to stop the accent shaming, this general assumption that if you talk like this, your IQ is assumed to be 20 or 30 points below what it actually is, no matter what.
Yeah.
And actually, the guy from Smarter Every Day, Destin, who's going to be speaking at Skepticon 8, he talked about this as well. He's in Alabama. He's teaching the world about science, and he does it with, a mild Alabama accent.
Yeah.
And it's a handicap to begin with. And so I was talking in Orange County, and I said, you guys are looking at this all wrong. The liberal Christians have already rationalized away all the problems, and they've constructed a theology that is almost impervious because it is so fungible and nebulous. I mean, well, that's not really God, and this isn't really God, and it's all good, and this isn't literal, and so they've got a ready dismissal for a lot of the objections. The moderates, I I think you can reach some of them, and they're going to move back and forth. I think that the moderates are going to go away. I think that the division is going to become almost exclusively liberal Christian and almost exclusively fundamentalist Christian, with very few moderates, because the moderates and liberals, as far as I can tell, don't have a leg to stand on. But the ones in the middle are in the worst position because they're trying to stand on both. They want to take this part literally and ignore this part. So they're really picking and choosing, where the liberals are just, it's all metaphor, and, you know, God makes me feel warm and fuzzy. But I think we should be going after the fundamentalists.
Right.
Because the people who believe that the earth is 6,000 to 10,000 years old, who are also willing to see reason and evaluate evidence, once they can be shown, you have been deceived. The earth is nowhere near 6,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It is billions of years old, and here's all the evidence for it. And then you start chipping away at every little thing, and what doesn't make sense. You know, well, why does God work this way? We know there wasn't a global flood. We know languages didn't arise because of the Tower of Babel. We, you know, all these things you can, as you learn more about the world, the literalist fundamentalist view stops making sense. And when you get a fundamentalist like me to recognize this, not only they don't tend to migrate to moderate and liberal Christianity. They tend to get out of it entirely, and they become some of the most outspoken advocates, and they become like a little army of thinkers who can not only talk to other fundamentalists, but they have credibility. I mean, if you were going to do a debate in a Southern Baptist church over anything other than perhaps evolution or something strictly biology, you don't want Dawkins to do it. You want somebody like me to do it, because if I'm a Southern Baptist sitting in the pew and I see Richard standing up there, you know, as much as I admire him now, if I'm a Southern Baptist, I look at him and he's an intellectual, elite, snob, Oxford, sciencey, and he has no understanding of the religion that I have. You know, he was, you know, maybe Church of England until he was maybe 12. You know, he doesn't understand the personal relationship with Jesus that everybody sitting in the pews thinks they have. When you get somebody like me or Jerry or any of the others who came out of that background to stand up at the front of the church, it's very hard for them to dismiss me. It's very hard for them to claim that I don't know the Bible probably better than most of them do. It's very hard for them to say, oh, you know, you never lived this, you never experienced this, you don't know what you're talking about, because I did.
Or I'm pretty sure you can't. Oh, well, you're not or never were a true Christian. So.
I get that all the time, and I'll agree with them depending on their definition. I told Ray Comfort this. If your definition of true Christian is someone who actually has a relationship with the risen Christ, then I never was, because I don't think there was a really risen Christ. But I also don't think you're a true Christian. I don't think anybody is under that definition. Yeah. If you use the normal definition of this is someone who sincerely believes and lives their life and tries to follow and be the best representative of Christ that they can be, you know, if they are convinced that they have this personal, then I absolutely was. And everybody around me, my family, my church, all of them would have agreed with this. Now, some of them are changing their tune now.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, but when I was, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when I started going, I'd been through some bad times. And I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be something better. There's got to be more to it. And I began to really seriously thinking about my mortality. You know, I want to die one of these days. And I want to go with this and see where it leads, you know. And a lot of people, like people I'd worked with and friends, you know, they saw changes that were happening. I quit smoking, quit drinking. I lost quite a hang on.
Okay.
I'd lost quite a few friends, and because of this, because I wasn't going out and drinking and carousing and having a real good time and stuff like that, because they were still doing that, and I wasn't doing that anymore. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I've gotten some comments, you know, wow, you've really changed. You know, Christ has made such a difference in your life, on and on and on. And deep down inside, all that whole time I was in church, nothing had changed. I was still the same inside. Nothing had changed. Just the external stuff. That was it. You know, but even though they said, oh, yeah, you got it. Yeah. No.
Yeah, that's frustrating. I mean, I pointed out over and over again that I think under almost any standard, I'm a better person now than I was when I was a believer. And that rubs some people the wrong way when I say it. but what I mean is all of the things that I did then that are actually genuinely good, I'm still in favor of. And all of the things that I did then that I don't think were good, I'm opposed to. And, you know, for example, I was raised not to hate homosexuals, but to that homosexuality was an abomination. And so it was, you know, the love the sinner, hate the sin type thing. So we're to reach out to these people, but it's about changing them. It's about getting them to recognize that they're voluntarily living in sin, that this is a choice. And so that I got to get rid of all that baggage. And if I had discovered after getting rid of religion that homosexuality was that there was something immoral about it, or that there was something, you know, that made it an abomination to nature or whatever, then I could have still held that position for entirely different reasons. What I found is that's not the case. And
you never recall about the being gay. You know, it's like they say, "Oh, well, it's a choice." It's not a choice. It's like when did you choose to be straight? You know, then when, you know, I mean, I'm not addressing that really to you, but to some people in some of the hangouts, you know, they'd be talking about the gay marriage and all this and putting it all down. And someone brought that up. You know, he said, you know, when did you choose to be straight? And they're like, you know, it's just what you are. That's the way I look at it. You know? It's
a good start. I've heard that. I've said that. It's a good starting point to have some discussions along those lines. One of the problems, though, is that there are responses to that. You know, it ends up, every analogy is going to fail at some point.
Yeah.
That's why they're analogies and not, you know, digitalities or however you want to direct identical scenarios. And we use the analogies as kind of Socratic methods to get people to think, hey, let me ask you this question. And when you realize this here, you can apply it over here. And if you come up with really good analogies, and I think that's a good one, it can work really well. But if you come up with one that's bad or that's easy to kind of shrug off, then you can kind of shoot yourself in the foot, because we don't want to pretend that two situations are identical when they're not. Yeah. But yeah, it was funny for me because I remember I was in Kentucky for the Free Thought Convention a week or so ago, and I was able to reconnect with some friends that I haven't seen in 15 or 20 years, including some people that I actually lived with for a little while. And it turns out he was far more influential to my current views than either he or I knew.
No.
It was because while I was living with him, you know, I was a believer, and he was, and honestly, to this day, even after discussions with him, I mean, I'm pretty sure that he would qualify as an atheist under my definition. I don't know that he uses the label or is too concerned about that. But he introduced me not only to Carl Sagan's Cosmos.
Oh yeah.
To it's Burke's. Let me get the exact name so that I don't screw this up, because it was so, I wish they'd remake this and update it. So James Burke put together.
Connections?
He did Connections.
Yes, I love that song.
But the first one, I think Connections may have been the first one. There's another one that he did called The Day the Universe Changed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Connections and The Day the Universe Changed, I watched over and over again at Ben's house when I was living there, and it was mind blowing. From somebody coming from this insular religious background, watching this was just amazing. Now they've done like Connections 2 and Connections 3. None of them were as good. So I'd really like to see kind of a proper remake of The Day the Universe Changed with a slight update. But it was, that was 1985 was when he first came out with it. And
I remember I think I saw both of those, and I was like, really fascinating stuff. Now I know where the word limelight came from. But
yeah.
But, you know, he covered a whole lot of ground there. It was great.
Yeah, The Day the Universe Changed and Connections were just amazing. And, they're BBC products.
Yeah.
But So, everything I know, I got so sick of, everybody who's the main spokesperson for rationality seems to have a British accent at some point. Everything sounds better with a British accent.
You run into a lot of them in the YouTube community. There are so many from Britain and Europe that come into the Hangouts and, oh, well, I got to go. It's 3 a.m.
Holy crap! It looks like at least some of the episodes of the day the universe changed are on YouTube. I don't know why that surprises me, but they're cool. Definitely they're there. But yeah, that really, I didn't realize it for a long time afterwards. And there were a number of things that before I ever got to the point of not believing, my views on a lot of things had changed. And I can remember as a kid, if I saw 2 guys kissing, it was like, bleh, oh, that's gross. And I thought, as almost everybody who grows up with that same type of reaction thought, that was the natural response. If you'd have said, if somebody would have said, no, you have been indoctrinated without your knowledge, enculturated to have that sort of reaction, no, you're just wrong. You are flat out wrong. This is just the natural reaction. And as it turns out, it's not. Unless I've been able to change my nature, because as I learned more and moved along and worked alongside guys who were gay in the Navy, even had to discharge one because of don't ask, don't tell, which killed me because he was an awesome guy who was one of the best workers in there. And the guy who outed him was a complete piece of crap that we should have got rid of. Yeah. Right up to, when Don Baker and his husband got married a couple of years ago, Beth and I went to the wedding, and when they kissed, there was no bleh. There was, oh, sweet. They're finally getting married.
Don Baker. Wasn't he that name sounds familiar.
He's one of the co-hosts on the Atheist Experience.
Oh, okay. Oh, gosh. How did I forget that? Sorry. For some reason, I was thinking of somebody else.
Yeah, he's been doing the Failures of Christianity series for about 18 years now.
He'll hit me if he finds out I forgot who it was.
No, he wouldn't. He'd just smile.
For some reason, I was thinking of someone in the Clergy Project for some reason. But anyway.
There is a guy, well, Dan, you might have been thinking of Dan Barker.
Okay, that's it. That's close.
Yeah, Dan Barker's the co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, along with his wife, Annie Laurie Gaylor. Right. And unfortunately, her mother, Ann Gaylor, who was the founder of all of that, died just yesterday or the day before.
Oh.
So, yeah, she was a huge champion for women's rights and freedom from religion.
Yeah.
So, my condolences to their family on the loss.
Yeah, that's something else I kind of rile against, is how they, it's a Christian nation and the founding fathers founded it based on the 10 Commandments. The spiel they give you. I'm like, no, that's not right at all. I think that and the creation, trying to get creationism in school, being taught as science, I think those are my 2 things that really upset me the most. I think.
Yeah,
they're really getting they're trying to get this stranglehold or power play over in certain areas. It's not good.
It's one of the things, and everybody kind of seems to understand this. I mean, it goes back to that old quote of, give me the child, and I'll, for a number of years, and I'll give you the man. I forget the quote.
Yeah, I forget who did it, but I know what you're talking about.
But it's, we understand. Once people learn something, we are both lazy and we have so many other things to learn and explore throughout our lives that we're reluctant not only to change our mind, but even to consider changing our mind. And so if you can get a kid to believe and understand a certain number of things, a certain number of foundational things, you can kind of dictate what their life is likely to be like and what kind of beliefs they're likely to hold later on. And it's the reason why we have education. It's the reason why public education of young people up to a certain age is foundational to society, because we're teaching them things that will benefit society.
Oh, definitely.
So it's hardly surprising that, it's not like somebody's going to come up with or stop accepting math, in their 30s. Although I'll probably get an email from somebody who did. Because as soon as I said nobody believes in the ancient Greek gods anymore, I started getting email from people who did. As soon as I pointed out that nobody thinks the Earth's flat anymore, why I the Flat Earth Society very quickly. So
I've seen things like that come up on the Atheist Experience when callers call in. They throw out all this stuff. It's kind of like the Bill Platt. I think it's how you say it. He had the Bad Astronomy website. He's got a Bad Astronomy forum, and in there they have a thing where people post stuff like that, like the Hollow Earth and woo stuff like crazy. And here's Bill Platt and all these other scientists, and they go, no, this is what it is. Here, read this. We'll explain it to you how you're so wrong.
Yeah, there was this website that I used to read ages ago that I don't anymore, which was fstdt.com, which was fun to say the darndest things. And it was quotes from all over the web of fundamentalists saying just bizarrely wrong things, and kind of exposing what their religious views can do to a brain.
Yeah. Now, this was something that we talked about, me and some others in a hangout. It's like you've got these really hardcore fundamentalists, like the 6,000 year Earth universe and all that. And I started noticing that a lot of them are into all these conspiracies and stuff, 9/11 truthers, and we didn't go to the moon or something like that. And it's like, it's almost like a certain kind of mindset that draws people to the woo and to this really extreme fundy look, at life or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I ain't saying that's 100% true, but more often than not, I've seen that.
Well, so this is where we get into difficulties, and I've seen people talk about trying to correlate atheism with IQ, and it drives me crazy because my IQ didn't go up. When I was a believer, my IQ was not any lower. In fact, all of the evidence points to the conclusion that it was probably higher, that your IQ is likely to decline over the years. I just have different information and a different way of looking at information. There's nothing about you can be wrong no matter what your IQ is and no matter what information you have. And so then they start talking about the God module in the brain, that some people are genetically predisposed to belief in a God and some aren't. Well, I have problems with that as well, because I was a sincere believer for more than 25 years. That's more than half my life.
Right.
Now, did the God module in my brain suddenly malfunction? Was it there and then it was gone? I think all of these things are flawed attempts to oversimplify. It reminds me when I first found my way out, I spent a lot of time looking for the one silver bullet argument that I could present to anybody that would free them from the shackles of religion. And there is no such argument, because people believe for different reasons and they give it up for different reasons. For some, this was an intellectual pursuit that is based off of some kind of flawed argument, or they've trusted the wrong evidence. For others, it's an emotional thing. For others, this is the way I was brought up and raised. It gets to the point where we talk about burden of proof a lot. And the claim that some God exists has a burden of proof, which, so far as I can tell, has never been met. But if I'm talking to you and you believe that a God exists, I now have adopted a burden of proof. It's not the burden to demonstrate that God doesn't exist. My burden of proof is to demonstrate that you don't have a good reason to think that God does exist.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets confusing, because if I fail, then that actually reinforces your belief. And if I succeed, we know from other studies that can also reinforce your belief, which is really sad, that somebody will come out believing more strongly once they've been disproved because they've made a vocal pronouncement, they've publicly attested to a belief. And when I see people trying to just label religious people as stupid, in a colloquial sense, sure, they're stupid. And so are we. Everybody's stupid about something at some point. I don't see that it's beneficial at all to label it that way. But when they start trying to say that, the intellectual elite don't believe in God, therefore well, maybe the intellectual elite have something incredibly wrong with them. Maybe that they're so intelligent that they have no connection with empathy, and that they are, essentially in religious language, soulless automatons. That they can't get in touch with this thing. That you're making presumptions about the nature of this in order to reach a conclusion. And I think the truth is, at least from what I've seen, far more complicated and muddy, which is why, while I think religions will eventually fade away, to be like Christianity will someday be the equivalent of flat earthers, to where there's just a handful of people who believe and nobody takes them seriously. But I don't think it'll ever go away, because I don't see any likelihood that we're ever going to become perfectly reasonable creatures. I think the best we can do is just keep encouraging people to get more and more reasonable, to embrace science and evidence.
Oh yeah.
So I've got like probably 5 minutes or so before I have to head out, because I have another hangout at 9.
Okay.
So any other questions you want to get in there? Because probably one question will take me 35 minutes to answer.
Well, I'll just go a completely whole different direction. What do you like to collect?
I collect magic stuff. I've been doing magic since I was about 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually performing at the Oklahoma Free Thought Convention this Saturday. I've been doing more mentalism primarily because I'm on stage, but my favorite stuff has always been close-up magic, which you can't really do from stage. And so I have magic books and magic props.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a truckload of DVDs, although I don't really buy any new ones anymore. For years, I just ended up with a bunch of them.
Yeah, I've seen you do some of the tricks on the shows and stuff. They're pretty cool.
I've actually been preparing and rehearsing for this show, because I did one at American Atheists. I did one in San Antonio that was almost the same as American Atheists. I didn't want to show up in Oklahoma and have somebody say, "Oh, I saw you do magic at American Atheists. I can't wait to see what you do today," and then do the exact same show. So unlike I have a lot of friends who are professional magicians. They perform all the time. They have hey, here's my 10-minute set and my 30-minute set. And, for some of them, if they've got their own theater, they're doing the exact same show, 500 times.
Yeah.
With maybe little changes. For others who may be busking on the street, they have a repertoire of a handful of things. And that's great. I mean, that's how you get good. And that's what I'd love to do. I'm in this strange position where I'm on stage with atheist and skeptic groups, and I've started doing more magic. So people are asking me to do more magic. I don't let them record it. Well, they can record it. I don't let them post it on YouTube, because partly I don't want to screw up somebody else's livelihood. If I make a mistake, because I'm not performing it as often as others, I don't want me to ruin a trick that somebody else is making their living off of.
Yeah.
But also, if I end up doing the same trick at 2 different conventions, I don't want somebody to say, "Oh, I saw him do that online. This is what's going to happen." And "Oh, I think he does this and this." If you figure out how it works, fine. I mean, good for you. None of us are walking out there thinking, "I'm going to absolutely fool everybody with everything that I do, start to finish." It's entertainment.
Yeah, I know it's sleight of hand and all, but when you watch somebody do it, it is so cool.
It is. I love doing it. So I clicked that. Lately, I played guitar when I was in the Navy, but just like acoustic rhythm guitar, nothing, no lead. And over Christmas, I decided I want to learn how to play the banjo. So I ended up with that banjo. That's a cheap piece of crap that I bought at a flea market. It turns out playing the banjo is really freaking hard, especially if you haven't done a lot of finger picking or lead. So I got frustrated, and that's how I ended up with the ukulele, which was really easy to learn. And then next to that is the mandolin. The ukulele was so easy, I went and bought a mandolin about a week later. And I've got an electronic baby grand keyboard downstairs because I watched a video. This is how sick I am. I watched a video because I took piano lessons for about a week when I was a kid, and I hated it. I hated doing the scales and all the practicing and stuff. And I saw this video online that's like, "Hey, we're teaching people to play the piano wrong. If you teach them like this, you can learn to play the piano in no time." And it was a completely different look on it, or take on this. And it was something that my knowledge of playing guitar and ukulele work too, because it's about, hey, here's the chords.
Yeah.
And you can do them with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or you can think of them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if you've got this fingering, this is the fingering for these 3 chords, and then this is the fingering for these 3 chords, and then you've got sevenths here. And so you get to be able to play a lot quicker than you would if you know, twinkle, twinkle, over. It's just annoying. It drives me crazy. I don't have the patience. So I'm a big faker. I'm never going to be the guitarist in a band, but I can jam with a band as long as I'm just playing rhythm.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked that was, well, you can see behind me. I've
yes,
got,
you have an incredible collection of
they're Power Ranger and Super Sentai Megazords, the robots from the series.
Wow.
I have the Japanese versions and the American versions. Of course, that people see those, whenever I'm on. I think that's part of my collection. I got a lot in boxes, and I won't be selling a lot on eBay. But sometimes I'll do that, just kind of throw it off of something serious. Just go, well, what do you like to collect? So, and that's always interesting to find out what people like.
Yeah, it's my real passion has always been magic, which is why, when I was a kid, I wanted to do it full time, and I did shows for the church. I did shows, for like old folks' homes and stuff, and school talent shows. And then I realized I don't want to do kids' birthday parties, and I don't see any other way for me to make money doing this. So it's not going to be my job. Well, now, then I end up working in the tech. I went in the Navy, then I worked in the tech industry, and I love that. But I fell into arguing and debating about atheism, religion, philosophy, etc. And I loved it, but I didn't figure it'd ever be my job.
Right.
And so now I turned 46 in March, and I am a professional, full-time, godless heathen, something I never thought I would be.
46, spring chicken. I'm 61.
And I'm being asked to do more and more magic, and I'm hanging out with more and more magicians. So now I figure by the time I'm 50, my childhood dream of being a professional magician will actually come true. and in the strangest way possible. So
no kidding.
Yeah, literally, like off camera, off to the side. I've got a demo thing that somebody gave me and a handful of books that I got from the magic auction. There's baggies full of sponge balls, and yeah, my desk's a damn mess. Oh, I got this at the auction too. I want to get a full size one, even though I don't really like the trick that much. But it's a dissecto finger chopper.
Oh, okay.
And you can actually put your finger in like that and then slice through it. But this one's not in great shape. But it's a small version. I think it's almost looks like a salesman sample of the full size one, because the full size one's for a wrist. But yeah,
that was cool.
It looked nice, so I went ahead and it was like $2 or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, I appreciate the time and the donations. I'm glad you got the book, and if you get together with some of those folks that you do hangouts with, who knows? Send me an invite. If I'm home, I might jump in and listen in and carry on and whatever.
Oh. Yeah, because I know you got so many things, so many things you got going on. I appreciate the time, you spent, talking and stuff. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Just one last little thing is keep at it. You and others like you are doing so much to help people. You really are.
Thanks so much. That means a lot. And I have no plans of stopping. And actually, in the last few events, people have started to ask if I need security, because they're getting used to, like, Sam Harris needs security and Ian Hersey Lee needs security. And so they're like, do you need security? And I'm like, not so far as I know. Maybe I'm not doing enough to piss people off, but so yeah, I'm not the slightest bit worried, and I have no plans to stop. I'm actually working on a book, and I have most of July off and most of August off. I only have one event each of those months, so it's crank out videos and get more work done on the book.
Oh, cool. Well, Matt, I appreciate it. You take care now.
Thanks so much.
Good night.
Good night.